Okay, so we're going to be looking at chapter 7 this week. And chapter 7 is kind of just building off of stuff we've already reviewed. How's the pace treating everyone so far, by the way?
It's been good. Not bad.
All right. Yeah, we're going to slow down once we hit chapter 10. And chapter 10 actually is beginning a section that gets pretty hard right at the beginning. But anyway, at that point we'll be covering stuff that's probably new to everybody. And of course, as you're doing Duolingo this whole time, even though you're reviewing, you are expanding your skills even beyond the material that's in the book. All right, so chapter 10, we are going over a very commonly used and extremely useful irregular verb. Did I say chapter 10? I meant chapter 7. And this will be a large part of our focus today. So that's going to be the verb ir, which is IR. I'll go ahead and write the full conjugation of it. So it means to go or to be going. And you figure out which one it means just based on the context. So we have yo boy, yo vas, or sorry, tu vas, Lord help, tu va, nosotros vamos, vosotros vais, if you're in Spain, and ellos, ellas, ustedes van. Pretty weird, right? Doesn't have anything to do with the infinitive form. None of them start with an I or an R. There's no stem represented up here. So highly irregular.
Is there an accent mark with by?
Good question, because normally there would be, right?
Yeah.
But there's not since it's a one syllable. Yeah. So just to make up some simple, name some places. Let's make a bank of places.
Walmart.
And how would we say places in Spanish? I don't think I've taught anybody that, but maybe somebody knows. Lugares. That's one way to say places. All right, and something in Spanish. So instead of Walmart, we could just say like the store.
Supermarket.
La tienda.
Whatever you call it.
El supermercado. Cumbersome word. What else? Let's see if that's the mechanic. Even if it is, I'll ignore it because you guys are in class now, rather than just taking place for doing the lesson part. But what else? Other places.
The bank.
Good. And what's that? El banco.
We did the bathroom.
Yes.
El baño.
El baño. I figured someone would after el banco because they're kind of similar words. El baño. Let's get 3 more.
La ciudad.
La ciudad, good. I'm glad we have a la in there somewhere to even it out a little bit more. La ciudad, what does that mean?
The city.
The city.
What was the word for United States? Wasn't it like
Los Estados Unidos.
Yes.
It's kind of a fun one to say fast. It's funny because, I mean, I'm sure you guys are experiencing this too, but it's like, I can read Spanish pretty well now, but I have a really hard time listening to Spanish when people are speaking at normal speed.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a language that, you know, you're kind of speaking in the front of your mouth, you can kind of go really fast with it. And so I remember I was watching a movie a long time ago before I was like teaching any of these classes, but I thought, you know, why don't I just try to learn Spanish by putting movies in Spanish?
Did it help?
Sometimes it does, but this time it didn't. I was going in too deep, but what happened was like the characters would just be like, and then like they would finish, and then it would just be like the next character, you know, and then he would start late and finish, you know, because like basically they were so used, the actors spoke so fast that they would have to just create these long pauses because they were saving everything so much faster than the scenes. So, anyway, Los Estados Unidos, one more.
Hotel.
Good. El hotel. But I really recommend having Spanish subtitles and listening to the English audio. I found that most useful for me anyway, because but a mix of both is good. English subtitles, Spanish audio, and it especially works well for something that's low language skill, you know, like a kid's show, but also something you're just familiar with, like you know, if there's a movie that you have nearly memorized, you can watch that in Spanish. And just bear in mind that they're not going to translate everything exactly literally. So, I mean, you know, they may paraphrase when they translate it. But it's a good way to grab vocabulary. All right, got to bank of places. So, if I say, I don't know, give me some nouns, or just like a noun. Something that could go somewhere.
El gato.
El gato, good. All right, so los gatos azules
Like. I'd like to see that.
van where? Good. Al hotel. And this is a good opportunity to review. Spanish only has one contraction, and it's this. What does that stand for? Yeah, to the. It means to the, and you're combining a, el.
Something else about delta?
Actually, you know what? I guess they do. They have two. All right.
What's the other one?
Del. Which would be de el. So los gatos azules van al hotel. Translate, please.
Blue
Blue
cats
cats
are
go
going
to
to
a
a
hotel.
Good. And so you said are going to, and that makes more sense than go to, right? In this context. Yeah. I mean, I think you could translate it either way, but going to is probably the more sensible one, right? The cats are going to the hotel. But you could do it either way. The blue cats go to the hotel. Maybe they do it regularly. So you have some freedom there, but just the context will tell you if it's go to or going to. Here's one that's a little bit easier to figure out which of those you're going to do. Vamos a la ciudad. Del mono gigante. Alright. Vamos a la ciudad del mono gigante.
That we are going to the city of the giant monkey.
Yes. We're going to the city of the giant monkey. And now, I mean, could it mean we go to the city of the giant monkey instead of going to?
Sure.
Yeah, but if you're like saying, you know, we go, then unless you're actually currently doing it and you're just narrating what you're doing, it's probably we're going. So, you know. And how do we say let's go, by the way? That's not actually in the book, but it's a good thing to know.
Is it like Vominos?
Vamonos, yes. You probably know that from Dora.
Yes, exactly.
Vamonos. Accent mark there? Vamonos. All right. So I'll just give you a couple minutes. Well, should we do that now? Nah, let's not do that. Skip that exercise. All right, so you get to something really useful with ir when you use it in an ir a plus infinitive phrase. This is kind of a way around learning a tense. You can kind of cheat in Spanish using this. Everything we've been doing so far is in present tense, right? And the present in Spanish, you can often kind of like meld it with the future a little bit. Kind of the difference between like, you know, we go or we're going. But here is a place where you can use present forms and kind of put yourself in the future without much trouble. if I say something like this, vamos a viajar a los Estados Unidos. Anybody remember from last year how we would treat this? Vamos a viajar. So let's just take the vamos, because that doesn't really change.
It's just like we travel instead of
Mhm.
like
Oh, is it
we
like
go
we're
to
going
travel.
to travel?
We're going to travel, yes.
Oh,
So
it's a train.
piece this, apart. If we have, we go, or we are going, a is to, and then viajar is to travel. So the pieces are like, we are going to travel. But one of the things is that there's a little bit of a difference between like the to travel meaning of to, because in English we have the unfortunate situation of one word to having a bajillion different functions. We have to like going from here to there, the preposition form or function. We have the infinitive function like to travel, which that can even be used as like the subject, like to travel is good or something like that. You've got to meaning in order to, like I bought this to, I don't know, eat it, something like that. In order to eat it is what you mean. So lots of different meanings of to. So here, in the Spanish construction is vamos a and then the infinitive. So vamos a viajar. And so I am going to whatever the verb is that you have in the infinitive form. So maybe another one. Vamos a, or let's see. Los osos enojados. Van a quedar en el baño. May not be able to get everything, but who wants to take a stab at this? I'll give you a hint. What is oso?
Bear.
Very good. Okay, so
Special Agent Vincent.
Right.
That was the greatest TV show.
what is enojado?
Angry?
Angry. Good.
So is it the angry bears are going to want to go to the bathroom?
So it's not querer, which is like to want. This is quedar. Very close though.
Oh, okay.
Quedar is going to be stay or remain.
So they're going to want to stay in the bathroom.
Yeah, and not want to, but los osos enojados van a quedar en el baño. They are
Going
Mad.
yes. The angry bears are going to stay in the bathroom. So we have once again ir a plus infinitive. Van a viajar. They are. And so what are you noticing about, like out of these two verbs, the ir and the infinitive, which one do you conjugate to match the subject?
The okay.
In the first one.
Yeah, only ir. So if you can
Because
conjugate
you
ir,
get the infinitive form, right?
yeah, because the other one stays in the infinitive. So it's great. You can express this complicated phrase, going to do a verb, and you only have to conjugate ir. And so, yes, it's annoying because ir is highly irregular, but you just memorize these 6 forms, and you can say all kinds of things without knowing how to conjugate. In fact, when I've been in the situation of like, kind of my story with Spanish was I took Spanish 1 through 3 at TCC. Then, let's see, many years later, how many years? Like 4 years later, perhaps? No, more than that. Maybe like 6 years later, I don't know. Went on a mission trip to Nicaragua. That's plenty of time to forget. And And so then I was like, I'd remember a little bit. And in the meantime, I'd been teaching Latin a little bit, like for a couple of years, and so it all got mixed up. And it got even worse because I just came back from a trip to Cambodia, so I was mixing in their language without meaning to, because my brain just didn't know which of the 3 languages to go to some of the time. But when I get confused, and I'd be like, okay, how do I say, like, you know, what's the such and such form of like tener or something that's irregular? I would just make a sentence where I could do like turn it into infinitive, like basically like you know, instead of like, if I forgot how to say like we need, necesitamos, I just knew necesitar was you know, the verb to need. I could say like you know, vamos a necesitar, we are going to need. Then I wouldn't have to conjugate it, or you know, just whatever it was. I could you can get around conjugating verbs that you don't know by creating some kind of an ir infinitive or some other situation where it gets to stay in the infinitive. So it's really a nice language hack. The other thing, like I said, is this puts you in the future tense without having to actually use future tense endings. Because you can just be like, we're going to do this, and you just get to use present tense and infinitive. Very easy. So it's worth learning. It's worth mastering, because it's actually not hard to master. Okay, want to go over a little bit of like some rules for doing this structure of ir plus infinitive. There's not much to it though.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yep.
I think Kate has a question.
Okay.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Sure. Watch out for the angry bears. Okay. So when you're doing this, something you should be aware of is the subject placement. You got 2 options, and I think I actually messed this up a lot personally. So if you are just doing like a declarative statement, not a question, in other words, or something like that, then what you do is just subject, verb, van a tocar las guitarras. What's that?
Shoot one.
You got it. To
I started off wrong anyway.
touch the guitar.
Good. But tocar can mean touch or
To play.
play. Yes.
Play.
So if it's an instrument, it can mean to play. But if I said like ellos van a tocar los osos enejados, then that'd be like they're going to touch the angry bears, which is not advisable.
It's not so much a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, with like jugar, or juegar, that's the right one.
Yeah.
Whenever it's like
Jugar.
to play, is to play a sport, like you could turn it into like juegar is just to play, and then if you add sport, it makes it play a sport? Or is
Yeah, I
it
mean,
just to play a sport?
I would need to see it with out of sport, because I think in the definition they say like to play parentheses a sport, which makes me think that
Yeah.
it'll always be used with a sport. But I don't know. I can't recall ever seeing it without a sport, but I don't want to rule out the possibility that it could be used without. So, all right. So, but if you're making a sentence though, then you have 2 options. You can either say, like, van a tocar, and then the subject, ellos las guitarras. That's kind of confusing sounding, right? Because you got your subject and your direct object right together after the verb. So this ir a plus infinitive, if you want to keep it all together, you put the subject after if it's a question, which is but alternatively, you could say, and this doesn't really help that much, but it at least separates your subject from your direct object, makes it clear which is which. Van ellos a tocar. This actually, there is a way I could do something even more fancy if I wanted to, but I'm going to refrain. Las guitarras. But what you would probably normally do, actually, if you have an infinitive followed by an article like los or las, you would combine them, tocarlas, as one word. But anyway, van a tocar, you can separate it with the subject in the middle if it's a sentence. But you gotta do one of those two. And of course, if it's one like, you know, eos, where it's just kind of built into the verb, like van by itself means they are going, then you can leave it out if you don't want to remember the rule. But it's a good thing to know in case you have like a subject you can't replace as easily with a pronoun. Okay, everyone good? We're going to take some of the same grammar concepts and apply it to other phrases. What is an idiom?
It's like something that's translated the same your languages, right?
Not quite. You say that is not translated the same? Is that what you said?
No, that is translated the same.
Yeah, not quite.
Oh.
Is it the opposite?
It is the opposite.
No.
That's where you guys should be like, man, you're such an idiom, or whatever.
Dang.
Wow.
Get one question wrong and I'm an idiom.
So, yeah, so idioms are going to be where, like, it's basically something that if you translated it literally, it wouldn't have the same meaning as what it's intended in the language. So I'll give you, maybe you're thinking of like a cognate where it's the same sounding word in both or a similar sounding. I'll give you an example, which was that we were reading Gilgamesh in Omnibus because I've been subbing for that class.
Oh yeah.
And so what was the idiom that we encountered in Gilgamesh last time?
That's a good question.
It was about Enkidu dying and
Oh yeah. The worm.
yeah. So the idiom there was the worm fell out of his nose.
And your version was like different.
Yeah, my version has just said that like until the worm had latched onto him or something like that.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense in that context.
Yeah, but you know what they basically mean is he's dead and rotten. Yeah.
When the worm is like, and
Yeah, the worm fell out of his
staring
nose.
at the body crying over him, and the worm fell out of his nose.
Yeah, and he says it all the time over and over. So that would be just one example of an idiom. There's actually some biblical idioms that are hilarious that only appear in the King James because they said what it literally was saying, rather than just paraphrasing it when they translated it. Because usually that's what you do with an idiom is you paraphrase it. So like, you know, until he was worm bitten or like the worm had latched onto him or just until he was dead. You know, those would be like taking that idiom and not saying literally every single word in it, but just like giving the general idea. So often idioms just kind of get paraphrased in translation, and that's part of what we're going to be doing today. So I'll give you this one. Well, yeah, let's pull out some idioms from the book. This one's going to use tener. So tener is another really useful but irregular verb. So remind me, what does tener mean?
To have.
To have.
I have 30.
Yep. Tener. So you have, what are the forms? Tell me. Tango.
TNS.
DNAs. Good.
DNA.
DNA. I'm going to give you another language hack using tener. So, tenemos.
Tenace.
Yep, good. Tenéis.
And then TNS.
Well done. All right, so the first one you've already encountered. This is an idiom because when we translate it, we say it differently. Tengo. I don't know. Let's say 90 años. Translation?
I have 90 years.
Yes. So that's the literal translation. That's the worm fell out of his nose version. But when we approximate it into our language, because it's an idiom and we can sort of, you know, approximate it, then what do we say?
I have 9 years old.
Yeah, so we say I'm 90 years old when we read that. You know, that's how we can translate it. But literally it is I have 90 years. So the next one, this one is less similar to our language. Tener color. If I say tengo color, that means I'm hot, like temperature-wise. And there's a lot of them. I'm just going to read them. Tener celos. you can look on page 85, CELOS, to be jealous, tener cuidado. This one actually is a good one to know. If someone says, you know, they probably wouldn't say this. They'd probably just say cuidado, but that would be like, take care, you know. Yeah, tener cuidado, to be careful, you know, to have care, is literally what it means. Tener la culpa, to be at fault. And so there's a whole bunch of these. Let me see if there's, yeah, some of them are kind of useful, like if I say tengo sueño, look, you can look down on the page. What does it mean, tengo sueño?
To be sleepy.
Yeah, good. Tengo sueño is to be sleepy. This one's important. Tengo sed. What is that?
To be thirsty.
Yes, and a similar one, which I assume is in the list, but I haven't looked for it yet. Tengo hambre.
To be hungry.
Yes, so literally these are like, you know, this would be like, I have hunger, you know. All these are I have, literally. This one is also kind of interesting. Tener, or I'll just say tengo, you know, to make it all personal. Tengo razón. That's to be right. So razón, I think, is like, you know, reason. One more. Tengo miedo, and usually you follow with a de. Los osos enojados. Tengo miedo is to have fear, basically. I am afraid of
Bears.
the angry bears. Okay. But let's take a look at some other idioms. This is the one that's really helpful. I'm going to skip a bunch because you guys can figure these out on your own. But this is the one that is a really useful language hack. And I would use this more than the ir plus whatever to get around stuff I didn't know how to conjugate. All right, so give me one of those irregular verbs that we went over last week. Which one? Ah, yeah, okay, good. To lose. Give me another.
Volver.
Volver. Yeah. To return. Maybe one more. Servir. So let's say that you don't remember the weird forms of these, all right? So, and you can use this phrase, tener que. And then you add an infinitive. So just like ir a plus infinitive. But this one's using tener. Very useful word. Tener que, and then an infinitive. And that's going to mean I have to such and such. All right? So let's say you're trying to say they are let me form a sentence out of this. I'll just do this real quick. Tengo que volver. Translation?
I have to return.
Good, I have to return. It's an idiom because literally this would be like I have that to return. Something like that, but I have to return. Now, if like, I don't know. Ellos sirven los, I'll say la gente. La gente pobre. What does this mean?
They serve the gentle father?
Not quite. So pobre, you might remember. Gente, you may not. What is pobre?
Or
Poor, yeah. And then gente will be people. So they serve the poor people. Irregular. Let's say that I want to say that, but I don't remember how to conjugate sirven with that stem change. So how can I get around this? I could say something like this. Ellos. I can easily conjugate, ellos tienen. Tienen que servir. See what I just did there? The meaning's a little different, but they have to serve the poor people. And so by creating a something plus the infinitive, servir, that works. Here's an even easier way to do it. Because if you don't want to say that you have to, you could say that you want to, or you need to.
They're going to.
Yeah, and that too, yes, that's actually perfect. You can use the ir a plus infinitive for this hack. So ellos van a servir. So now, I don't have to conjugate it. I don't need sirven. I can just be like, okay, well, I know it's servir is the infinitive, and that's what you memorize anyway on like your cards. So this is a great way to just kind of language hack your way around irregulars, especially. But I also use this one a lot. Instead of half, like tengo que, have to, that's useful. I would also do like want to, like quieren que. Or actually that one doesn't have a K. Quieren servir, or necesitan servir, they need to. But yeah, tener que and ir a plus the infinitive, those are going to be real useful for getting around conjugations you can't remember. All right, how much time do we have left?
5-ish minutes?
I think 10 minutes, right? Don't we get out?
We actually ended 3:05, so yeah, a little over 10. Good. All right, now there's a lot of vocabulary here, and you're not accountable for all of it, so don't worry. I do need to go after one last thing real quick. Page 89, para and que. So que is, there's a difference between que and que. Tell me what's the difference.
K with the accent mark is the like what, you
Mhm.
know, and then the other K is like the that which who to K. Right?
Yep. This one is your relative pronoun. That, which, or who. Very good. And that's why, remember, the question words, like, phonetically, it doesn't need an accent mark there because it's a one syllable, so why would it need an accented only syllable? It's already accented. That's to distinguish that this is the question K. Same thing with like como or donde or cuando. They all have like a question with an accent mark that you don't need.
You're missing the upside down.
Oh yes, I am. Thank you. So if I use K, it can refer to persons or things because it's a pronoun. It can replace them. And it can actually replace singular or plural things. So here's one example. Ella tiene un, I'll make it feminine, una amiga que vive in, I'll say, España. Translation?
They have a friend that lives in Spain.
Good, she has a friend,
Or she has-
and you can say who or that or which, but and since it's a friend, which one probably is best in English?
Ooh.
Yeah, she has a friend who lives in Spain. Or she has some friends. Translate now.
She has some friends who live in Spain.
Yep, ella tiene unas amigas que viven en España. Still que, even though the who is plural, right? Because it's referring to amigas instead of amiga.
How would
So
you say that of which?
that of which
KDK?
KDK, I guess so. There's I think there's another way to go about it, but yeah. Oh yes, I know what it is. It's loke. So lo is going to be a pronoun, and that's going to be but if you're saying that which something, then you would use like lo or lake. Okay, so we also have para, and para can mean for or in order to. And of course, the K doesn't really get translated in like tener que, right? It's just, it's an idiom. All right, so para, for, and I'll just give you an example sentence. If I say like, José tiene un libro para, here's a little bit of review, su clase. Translation?
Jose has a wait.
Yep, a book for his class, good. And su is going to be his. Just for reviewing this little peripheral thing, tangent here. Sara tiene un libro. I wrote libra. Why did I do that? Para su clase. It's because I was thinking of para. That's why I got a name. Translation?
Sarah has a book for her.
Very good, because su can change from his, her, whatever, depending on who the subject is. All right, good. So that's one kind. But if you say para and follow it by an infinitive, this is actually another useful way to use infinitives instead of having to conjugate things. Comemos para vivir. We eat to live. And this is, yeah, actually we should do that. We should do vivimos para comer. We live to eat. And so that's going to be, whatever you do, the para followed by an infinitive, that's going to make it mean, instead of just for, it's going to mean in order to. Quite useful. But that's triggered by following it with an infinitive. All right, so one thing we can do real quickly, just with a few minutes left, come up with a sentence using this meaning of para, the for, and then come up with a sentence meaning with this meaning of para, in order to. And you got to set it up by having like an infinitive right after. So I got 7 minutes left, so I'll have to do this pretty quick. If you have time to kill, then do an ir a plus infinitive sentence, and also do a tener que sentence. And if you need to kind of figure out how to do this, look at page 89 for the para, the S4 or in order to. And then if you have time.
How do you say cereal in Spanish?
Which one?
Cereal.
I think it's el cereal, but I'll double check. Same spelling, just Spanish pronunciation. Let me make sure though. Yeah. El cereal. It's hard to say.
No, it's only one R.
Hmm?
What is present?
Present? Do you mean like the present, or like present tense, or do you mean like a gift?
Gift.
Regalo. R-E-G-A-L-O. Gregan.
What's the word for young? Is it like
Hoben.
Hoben.
Joven. And that could mean like a young person, or it could just be the adjective young.
Okay.
So you want us to do an idiom and a infinitive plus your.
So the first thing I want you to do is like just do like a situation, any sentence where you use para to mean for, and another one where you use para to mean in order to. And then if you have time, I didn't finish writing this, but do the idioms ir a plus infinitive, and then tener que. Most of you probably won't get to that. Yeah, I'll give you like 1 minute. Literally. When the history of you will start sharing. Sorry we didn't get to do any pronunciation practice today. I had an exercise in mind, but just ran out of time. Once we hit chapter 10, we'll slow down a lot and be able to do more things like that. Okay, can I get one volunteer for your para 4 sentence? Aaron.
Tengo que leer para el joven mano.
Great. That's good. Tengo que leer para el, and then joven, since it's an adjective, will have to come after.
Oh, okay.
El mono joven. So I have to read for the young monkey. And yeah, that would be the right meaning of for, because it's not in order to. You know your, you can't replace it with in order to. All right, someone give me your para in order to sentence. Maybe he's a mind-reading monkey and he needs you to read for him. I'll read mine. Go for it.
Ella tiene come la cabra morado para pipe.
Okay, give me that again.
Ella tiene come la cabra morado para pipe.
Comer la cabra. Right. Para, what was the last bit?
Pipe.
Oh, beber. All right. And that was all? Yeah, great. So it's a little bit nonsensical, but it's fun. So she has to eat. Ella tiene que, I forgot the que, sorry. Que comer la cabra. She has to eat the goat in order to drink.
No.
Maybe it's a prerequisite, like you cannot drink until you have. All right, someone have a ir plus infinitive for me? Go for it, Pedro.
Voy a comer cereal.
Perfect. Voy a comer cereal. I'm going to eat cereal. Yeah, you're probably
With chocolate milk.
longing for cereal now.
Yeah.
All right, tener que. Anybody have one? Shh, we're not done yet. Tener que. Anyone have one? All right, could say like, let's just make one up on the spot. Anybody? That lasts like 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Wait, are we doing for tener que?
Yeah, plus infinitive.
I wasn't doing that. I was doing
Yes.
You could do tener que correr para mantenerse sano.
Very good. Okay, so tengo que correr. That's I have to run, and then you say para in order to.
Stay healthy.
Okay. And what was the verb you used for stay?
This was Google Translate, so mantenerse.
Oh yeah, mantener salud, right? They said salud. Okay, that's a good one. I'm gonna write it on the board. Until the bell rings, then you can just go. Oh, and please help me pack up afterward and wipe the tables. Okay, now it's going. So, someone wants to spray them, someone wants to wipe them, and wipe the back of the chairs, and then I don't remember what we have to do with the tables, but I guess the halls will help us with that. Thanks very much.
I pick them up and then throw them across the room.
If only.